Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, when you're a vampire and morality issues come into play, it can make things a little complicated. And guess what? If you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to assume that you do, because quite frankly, you're listening right now. And if you are listening, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Give us the old 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere. Places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So you can give us a like and subscribe there as well. We'd absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Letterboxd, the TikTok, and probably a few other places at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it even more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So do us that kindness and pay us a visit. On this episode, we got a fun one, and it's perfect for this October Halloween holiday season, as it were. It's probably the best title for a movie in quite some time. It was a smash hit down at TIFF when it played, and it is in select theaters now all across the country. It is called Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. That is a mouthful, but it's worth it. And it's the story of Sasha, who is a young vampire with a very serious problem. She's too sensitive to kill anybody. And when her exasperated parents cut off her blood supply and force her to go out there and take a life, her life is in jeopardy. But luckily she meets Paul, a lonely teenager with some suicidal tendencies, who's actually willing to give his life to save hers. But their agreement soon becomes a quest to fulfill Paul's last wishes before the sun rises and day breaks. It's funny, it's cute, it's honest, it's got a lot of vibes from sort of the 80s horror canon that so many of us love and adore. It's really a charming piece of cinema, and it's Canadian to boot. It's playing at TIFF Bell Lightbox and also at the Review here in Toronto, but also check your listings around Canada. But before you do that, sit down and listen with the talk that we had with the director and the star of the film during the festival. We had the unique pleasure of sitting down with Ariane Louise Saez and young star Felix Antoine Bernard to talk about making the film and the origins therein, and so very much more. It was done in the wild, so it's a little quiet, but enjoy our talk with Ariane and Felix, but go check out Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person at your local theater, because honestly, you're not going to regret it. It is a charming, charming piece of cinema. All right, well, just to kick this off officially, obviously, both of you, just thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate this, and congratulations on the film. I absolutely loved it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Now, I mean, Ariane, I guess my first question is for you. Like, walk me through the origin of wanting to tell this, I guess, coming-of-age story, but in a very sort of different way than we've seen before.
Yeah. I always liked vampire tales, and but more in the underground indie filmmaker way than Twilight or the
Of course, yeah.
And I really like mumblecore
Sure.
coming of age as
Sure.
well. So the idea was to mix those two genres. And but my first short film wasn't a vampire film, but I made a watch vampire film to my main actress. So I wasn't kind of making a vampire film without making one, and now I'm actually making a vampire film without making one as well, because it's more my main character is she's a vampire, but I want to treat her like a regular teenager.
For sure.
And I had a lot of fun to do parallel between her vampire problem and the problem you have at that age in the teenage years, like when she wants to eat for the first time, it's like her sexual awakening. So there is really like fluid and parallel for me, and I wanted to do something playful and basically to talk about death but in a luminous way.
Sure.
Yeah, so that was the a little bit the thinking around the script, and but for the plot himself, I just had this idea that popped up in my head, and I pitched it to my co-screenwriter, and she was like, "This is brilliant, I want to do it," and we had so much fun. Yeah, it was a blast.
Well, and I mean, something I really love about this film is it does kind of switch the roles a little bit. I mean, if we go from the traditional vampire film, like you're kind of playing the lady's part in a way.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's why I love it. I think that's why this works. Like, walk me through your initial reaction, like when you got to read for this and with what you thought of it.
I mean, like my agent sent me the audition and the scene that I had to play, and then I read the title. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And then I read the scenes, and the character as well is very interesting, because it's like he's a bit on the spectrum.
Right.
And you know, there's this thing where he's depressed, but it's not really depression, you know, is like he doesn't find his place in the world. So he's very lonely, and then he's analyzing that and taking the logical way, you know, like, okay, I don't feel at my place, so maybe that means I don't like life.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna die. I mean, I have to die to find an answer to my living. And yeah, so, and she always said the same sentence, you know, to describe a bit the character, and it did.
Yeah, but Paul doesn't find a purpose for his life, so he thought maybe if I can find a purpose for my death, maybe it's more easy.
Well, and that was a line in the movie too. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very, and it's very the old thing about that character.
And that's why in my head, that's why he never did it, because he don't actually want to die, but it makes him feel something when he's on the edge.
Yeah.
But he didn't find a real purpose to kill himself as well. But when he meets with Sasha, it's he find a purpose.
Yeah.
I can help someone. I can do something.
So it's meaningful. Your death became meaningful at that moment.
Yeah. So he's not you know, that typical victim of someone getting bullied.
Right.
He's like okay with this. It's his life, and that's the only thing he knows. Yeah.
Yeah. He just don't. Yeah, the people bullying him, it's just, you don't understand why people are so harsh, why people but it's not like really suffering. He's suffering
but
more,
he's suffering,
but from loneliness and for feeling not belong to.
It's that finding purpose in death, which I think was a line in the movie that just really kind of made sense, because again, it's acknowledging the headspace of the character, but it's giving it some light at the same time.
Yeah, totally.
Now, I mean, something else I loved about this film is just how big it was and how it felt like it was in its own universe. And I mean, I've got to harken back to one particular shot, just with this young man standing on top of the bowling alley, and the wide shot, and just seeing him in this vast expanse. It kind of reminded me of a lot of the stuff that maybe a lot of us grew up on, like the 80s and the 90s, like part of that sort of that fun lore of vampire movies and horror movies. And I'm kind of curious, when you were tackling this, how important was it for you to really have a distinct visual style to this film?
I mean, I'm an I was
a child of the 80s.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm a child of the 80s, and and lots of my cinematic culture was in the end of the 90s.
Right.
And so I liked this visual style, and I wanted to like put the story in a small town, but we don't exactly know at which era, but we know it's like
it's a place
now,
out of time.
but
It's now, but it's out of time. Yeah.
So I like this kind of gray area, and I wanted to mix lots of era as well, and the visual style and the music, and so I play with aesthetic of the 2000
For sure.
movies.
And the shot you were
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about, by the way, was so scary to film because it was very late and very cold, and there was a lot of wind. So I'm like on the edge, and there's a cable, you know, and the wind's pushing me, and you can see like the tree in the shot going that way.
That's right. Yeah.
And the wind was like pushing me to the roof, you know, not to the end, but I had to push myself a bit to the end to like compensate. So it was
and it was your first day of shooting. His first scene. I was like, and he was stuck on the roof with the stunt guy, and I wasn't able to really proper communicate with him. I was like, oh, poor Felix.
I was alone on my roof.
What a first day it was.
That must have been so stressful for you, because I mean, on one end, all right, it's only a story tall. He's not gonna die, but it's like I don't want to send my actor to the hospital on the first day.
I know, and I love him so much. Yeah, I was worried that you didn't want to do the rest of the film. No, I know you're a trooper.
It was a fun day. It was a tough day, but it was fun.
But I mean, even that shot, like, there's humor in it as well, because I mean, obviously with the wide shot, we can see the building's not that tall, so we're sort of getting in on the joke a little bit, and just like there are so many little subtle moments throughout where it's just either family humor or very sort of dry, sarcastic humor, and I mean, how important was it to sort of give this like fun underlay of, as much as they're vampires, as much as they're, you know, learning how to kill people and drink blood, they're not taking themselves too seriously all at the same time.
No, that was the idea from the beginning. I wanted to do a comedy and a deadpan comedy, and to mix, what I like the most is to mix tragedy and humor, because you always have, in tragedy, always can like find some luminous and humor point, and in humor you can find tragedy as well. I like to mix those two really opposite emotions, and my co-screenwriter, she's so funny, and we have this same sense of humor, so I wanted to have fun writing this script. So yeah, that was the idea, and all the actors, I chose them because of their abilities to be really present, and to have they all have a good rhythm, humoristic timing.
The timing, yes.
And but they all kind of understand that they don't have to push the humor, because the humor comes from the timing, but also the situation. But they really, I wanted them to play more like their real emotion.
Right, right.
So it was a kind of a tone that we all have to find all together and be all on the same page in terms of the tone, because if someone is like in another
doing it over
movie,
the top, right?
Yeah, it can not work at all. But I'm really proud of the casting and what we achieved with the tone.
Now, how did she manage to sort of lead the way on that tone? Because I can imagine there were days on set where you guys were just probably laughing your asses off.
Oh, there's a line in the movie that me and Sarah laugh so much. It's in when I'm in her room,
Yeah.
and she's like, I'm asking her if she's allergic to church, you know?
Yeah.
And then she said, yeah, kind of, and I'm like, I'm allergic to I don't know what is it in English. Acarien.
Acarian. I
Acarian?
don't know, like the small dust bugs.
Oh,
Yeah, dust
right,
bug,
right,
yeah,
right,
I'm
right.
allergic to dust bugs. That line we laughed every time.
Every
Laughed
time.
yeah. So it was but we had a lot of rehearsal and repetition before. We talked with all the actors, and Ariane really told us what was the tone, and I mean, it was a tough thing to do, but at the same time, the interesting to do for that film, finding the tone between dramatic scene and funny scene.
Yeah, and every scene have a pivot where it's not funny anymore, or it's not sad anymore, or I like to switch the tone in the scene, and everything was about the timing, so I was really precise on the what was those pivots.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's so true. Yeah.
And it was very interesting because we had our premiere at Venice, and people didn't laugh as much as they laughed at the TIFF.
Yeah.
But they laughed. The people loved the film, but I think maybe the language, the barriers, it was harder for them to understand every joke. But I really watched the film in a dramatic perspective,
Yeah.
And then at the TIFF, I watched it in a more comedic perspective because everybody was laughing, and it's really you can watch it with the perspective you want it, and you can get what you want to get from that movie,
Yeah.
So it's you have scenes that are very dramatic, and all the movie is kind of sad.
No, for sure. Yeah.
And then if you're like with a lot of people and you're laughing, the movie is so fun and optimistic, and so you have really these two lines that are communicating together so well, and it's yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a credit to you, and that's a credit to you actors as well, because, I mean, I think of one scene, like, you're on the bed, she's going to take you, we all think it's going to happen, and you're like, what's wrong? Should I move my neck? You okay?
It was like a parallel
of the first time.
Yes.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And
That's really the magic of it.
It's so fun to play with that. We had so much fun doing those scenes in the room of Sasha.
It was one of the best scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, now that you've hit Venice and then TIFF, and you're getting sort of a grander perspective of how audiences are taking it in, like, I'm kind of curious for both of you, how has the ride been? Because, I mean, I can imagine, especially like pre-Venice, you're like, oh my God, are people going to like it? And then goes to Venice, people like it. It's like, oh, now we got to go to TIFF. Oh, now it's the general public. What are we going to do? And now, obviously, you had a full house. People were in love with it. What are kind of the emotions running through both of your heads right now? Like, is it or is it just sort of that exhale moment?
Yeah, it is. I was super happy with the film before showing it to people, but it was just my own satisfaction, and I knew it was good, but I didn't know if it just me that I'm so attached to the characters and the actors and I'm so happy that it works well, and it's a relief, and it's and I mean this. I know some people will have thoughts. It's subjective.
It's subjective.
Subjective. but we had so much nice comment, and
Yeah.
I'm happy with the response.
We had. I mean, at a certain point, we had so much fun doing it that it's almost unbelievable that people can't have fun watching it. You know, because everybody was so passionate about the project, and I think that people see that in the film.
Yeah, that's the most rewarding thing, to put so much love and effort in a project and see that people receive it.
Yeah.
And liked it.
So.
Well, and I mean, that's the thing for me. This plays so well globally and universally, just with the story and the vampire and all that. But at the same time, I mean, I grew up in small town Quebec.
Yeah.
I understand everyone gathering around outside the dépanneur on a Saturday night with someone with a synth keyboard playing. I get it.
Yeah.
To me, that was funny. That's not something that's going to translate maybe outside of Quebec. But for me, it's such a big thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's a real Québécois movie.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, universal.
Yeah, it is. Totally.
Yeah, I think you can relate elsewhere, and I'm also happy that because I play with common ground.
Yeah.
Vampire code, a teen movie code, comedy code.
Totally.
So I play with things that you kind of know where it's going, but the fact that I
merge them
together, I can take another turn, and so people respond to that it's kind of new to them to see something like that.
Yeah.
Even if I just use a code that people know.
Of course.
You know,
Yeah. But I mean, I will say selfishly, just, having been born in Quebec, just anytime I get to see a movie and I see the sign dépanneur, because I've lived here for 30 years, and I will say dépanneur until the day I die, just because I cannot say corner store.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I'm curious, just for you both, just to really put a wrap up on all this, because particularly for you, this film has such style to it, and it's so gorgeous, and I love it, and it is really very much a love letter to so many of those genre movies. Like, was there one that had the light bulb go off for you, sort of at a younger age, to be like, I want to make movies, I want to tell stories?
You mean one reference?
Like one movie, like maybe in your younger days that sort of inspired you.
Yeah. Mulholland Drive was one of my first big movie crush. I don't know if I can.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
And I think it's the first film where I see movies like an object of art, and not just divertissement.
It's art. It's not products.
Exactly. And the first time that I really see vampire in another light is with The Hunger.
Nice.
And it was the first time I see a vampire not just like bloodthirsty creature, but in a more artful way, and they really have like internal struggle, and I think it's nice to use vampire to talk about really deep subjects. So this film kind of changed my way of seeing vampire.
Well, and you do that a lot through your performance as well. And I mean, I think that this applies to you too, because again, your performance is so in keeping with some of those, movies that she just like The Hunger, where it's not sort of the, it's not Bela Lugosi in the cape, walking down the big stairs. It's something different. And I mean, you really capture the essence of being that teen in that moment, in those times. And I mean, is there something for you that made you want to be an actor? Because again, just in the work that you two did together, you were so note on with the genre. I absolutely loved your performance.
Well, thank you very much. my mother put me in actor school,
Okay,
like at 6.
Ah.
So you know, I've been doing that for a long time, but you know, and I've watched a lot of movies, but there's some actors, you know, that kept me going. Like Daniel Day-Lewis. I love him. Antoine-Olivier Pilon.
Oh,
and Mummy was very one of my, because like I love all his performance, and I love Michael Fassbender in Shame too. It's one of my best performance, and I talk about Chaplin too, because all the body play and that's it's all these references that come together, and when I watch a movie, I just love movies. So yeah.
All right. Well, last question, just to put a bow on this. To me, this is such a fantastic example of Quebecois cinema. And for both your perspectives, why do you think Quebecois cinema has a little bit of a different edge than maybe cinema from the rest of Canada? Because it feels like had this been made in Ontario or Saskatoon, it would have been a very different movie.
Maybe. It's hard to answer this question, I think, because for a long time we didn't we didn't it was difficult to finance in Quebec those kind of film, and I think now genre is more like popular and something open. But
we're at a turning point, you know. There's something happening. Like you talked about it.
The faucet is loosened up.
And it's super nice to know that we can go outside of the box and try something new. But I don't know. I think maybe our movies maybe it's different because we are like a small francophone.
You're the bridge between Canada and the rest of Europe. There's a bit of a bridge,
Maybe,
there's something.
Our culture are different. I mean, we are in the Canada.
No, vraiment. No, you're right. No, it is.
So that bring it an edge, for sure.
Yeah, totally.
But I mean, both of you honestly keep up the good work, and I mean, thank you so much for the time today. I had so much fun with the film.
Thank you.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.